multi-step work are collapsing traditional cost advantages and forcing GCCs to choose whether they remain low-cost delivery arms or become AI-native engines for their enterprises. This online panel discussion brings together the authors of the India's first Agentic AI Playbook for GCC leaders to walk through the 5 pillars and translate them into concrete decisions GCC leaders can make in next 18 to 36 months. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Rajan Gupta, Director Data Science and AI ML at Deutsche Telekom. We'll be moderating this session, which focuses on archetype choices, readiness filters, agent ops, regulatory risk, and outcome-driven metrics that separate pilot factories from true agentic AI hubs. So join me in welcoming the Playbook co-authors, Mr. Shabareesh Raj, co-founder and Chief AI Officer at Sash.Ai, and author of Pillar 2 on GCC Readiness and Execution Plan. We have Mr. Urvinder Singh, GM Artificial Intelligence at Linde, and author of Pillar 3 on Technical Implementation and Operational Excellence. Mr. Somsubhra Sikdar, co-founder of Infainite, author of Pillar 4 on Governance, Risk, and Responsible AI, and Mr. Biswajit, Data Science Leader at Kenvue and author of Pillar 5 on Value Realization and Continuous Improvement. And I lead the Preamble and Pillar 1 on Business Imperative, so I'll try to connect the dots across pillars as we go. So welcome, gentlemen. Let's start discussing about this fascinating topic of agentic AI. So I'll come to you, Shabareesh. Given that we already have the mandates from Pillar 1, which talks about different archetypes and different kind of functionality and the business mandates that the organizations are having. But in your pillar, you argue for a ruthless 5-point readiness gate before any squad is formed. For a GCC under pressure to do Gen AI everywhere, what are the strongest signals a use case should not be in Wave 1?
Thanks, Rajan. Absolutely. One of the core ideas in Pillar 2 is that the biggest reason agentic AI programs fail is usually not the model. It's the lack of readiness discipline, right? So today, many GCCs are under pressure to do Gen AI and agentic AI everywhere, but not every use case belongs in Wave 1. So that's why we recommend a strict 5-point readiness gate before even forming an engineering squad. The first signal is ownership. If there is no single business owner accountable for outcomes, it's definitely a red flag. And second is the data and integration readiness. This is where many pilots quietly fail. An agent may work beautifully in the demo, but production reality is very different. Legacy systems, unclear APIs, approval delays, fragmented data ownership. In this playbook, we say very clearly, unconfirmed integrations are not a technical issues, they are at a program level risk. Third is failure recoverability. Your first agents should fail safely. If a wrong output can trigger financial loss or regulatory exposure or customer on, you're introducing too much complexity too early. Early deployments should operate in environments where humans can supervise, override, and learn from the system. That's how organizational trust is built. Fourth one is measurable business value. A use case may produce a great demo, but if it cannot show measurable outcomes within roughly 60 to 90 days, it's probably not the right starting point. So the philosophy is very simple. Wave 1 is not about choosing the most exciting use case, it's about choosing the most deployable one. The one that helps the organization builds operational maturity, governance discipline, and confidence to scale agentic AI responsibly.
Perfect. I think you have rightly summarized as well. Even with the signed charters and the executive sponsorship that comes from board, and even after the alignment, I think Wave 1 is about saying no to use cases without clear ownership and confirmed data accesses or recoverable failure modes. So that gives us, kind of a directional input that yes, even if we are picking up the use cases, it has to have some tangible values associated with it. Fair point. I'll move on next. From ML ops perspectives, and I've seen a lot of technical implementations and agent ops coming up. So, Urvinder, my next question would be around that itself. So many GCC things we have ML ops, so we are fine. And you have written Pillar 3, and that shows agent ops is a different layer. You have multi-step workflows, tools, memories, long-running tasks. So just help us understand that you have outlined AI DLC, which is artificial intelligence development life cycles, transitioning from traditional software development life cycles, and multi-agent topologies. So what are the 2 to 3, let's say, non-obvious changes a GCC leader must make to be truly production ready for the agents?
Yeah. Thank you, Rajan. And thank you for the introduction. And thank you for setting up the context for this particular pillar. So I want to touch upon this particular problem or the question with respect to four very important pointers. And one would be kind of overlap with what Sabrish said, but from more from the technical point as to ownership of the model. So I want to put it into this thing that is problem first approach. That is, if you are not able to understand the right problem just for the sake of using the technology which is being used all across everywhere, it doesn't make any sense because you will not be able to generate any ROI, or rather you'll not be able to see any possible, you can say, returns or rather benefit out of it. So if you're not able to find the right problem, you will end up building something which we call it as POC graveyard. You'll just keep on building POCs without understanding whether there is a long term, you can say, lineage of that particular solution is there or not. So we should always start with problem first approach rather than solution first approach. That is the first and the foremost thing before the entire technical limelight or the technical brute force comes into picture. And then there are the four or other three pillars which I'll talk about from the technical point of view is the workflow centric and not model centric. Most of the time what we end up doing is, okay, we can use Quen, we can use GPT, we can use XYZ, etc. There are so many models across the globe, but we should not be model centric, we should be more of workflow centric. And why I'm saying so, because if you're not able to understand the entire workflow of your problem, you're not actually adding any value to it. So how will I put it into, like, we have to trace every tool call. We have to check what type of memory are you giving an access to the model, and what type of different steps of transition you are giving. We also have to define SLOs, that is service level ownership. It should not be that, okay, one task as an ownership. It should be the entire workflow as an ownership that we should be giving. And rather than just the model accuracy alone, we should see whether the entire workflow is making sense or not. So that should be the key thing. And on top of it, we should be positioning the key KPI of the entire workflow as entire autonomous in nature. So if you're not putting that particular, you can say, KPI in the starting, it means that you're already saying that the model will not work. So the first KPI should be very much, you can say, robust and exhaustive in the sense that we should make the entire process autonomous. And then we'll see how we can trace it. Second part is very important. And I can take the example of one, you can say, recent happening that happened with Pocket OS. So when you just put all the agents in the respective, they might go rogue. They are, if you're not putting the right guardrails, if you're not observing what they are doing, if you're not evaluating your process. So here comes the second important pillar, that is called observation and evaluation. How you're evaluating your models, how your entire workflows of your agentic systems, and how you're, you can say, observing their respective process. You need to track their you can say, entire autonomy rate. What are the tasks that they are doing? What is the process they are doing? And in the respect, there are three things we should be looking at. One is your tool error, loss of context. There can be some loss of context from one agent to the other if you're using multi-agent or complex agent systems. Bad handoffs and hallucination, which can also be a problem of grounding. These are the key things we should be looking at from the observation side. And from the evaluation perspective, we should be doing a lot of regression testing on these systems with respect to, instead of just going blind with building these systems, we need to check it aggressively and regressively in your with respect to your golden data set. You should be testing it on a lot of edge cases, because these are the areas where most of the agents fail. So this is from the observation and evaluation perspective. And the last, which is the most important thing, where the CFO will say yes to me, that is infra and FinOps. That is where the cost is involved. Just for the sake of building things, you should not directly jump onto these models, because a lot of cost intensive model. It will, moving forward, the currency which I say is tokens instead of their respective currency figures. So how you're utilizing your currency, sorry, your currency in terms of tokens well. And you need to treat your entire model in such a way that, are you using the right model in the right place? For example, are we using the right context size? Are we using the right models? Are we using the right routing levers or not? With respect to routing levers, we can use a simple model instead of a very big frontier model. Frontier models can be positioned where you need a lot of reasoning, etc. And from the adoption side and from the FinOps side, when to go with API self-hosted models, when to go with prem and cloud hosted. These are the things that one has to look into. So to summarize, one should look from the problem first approach, workflow centric and not model centric. Observation and evaluation has to be very, very robust and you can say very stringent. And everything should come under the umbrella of infra and FinOps. So this is how the entire GCC leader from the agentic perspective should look into before jumping on to building anything.
Okay, that's a new perspective, because earlier GCC leaders were just thinking about which model to be used. That's the only question that was there in the boardrooms. But it's not just about model; it's about evaluations, observability, infrastructure, cost. So that's perfect. That we are moving towards an end-to-end kind of availability for our agentic AI systems, rather than just talking about the intelligence there, which is the model for us. Perfect. So once we have picked up the right use case and looked at the right technical infrastructure and the intelligence that we want to put in, next area comes up around governance, risk, and responsible AI. And I'll come to you, Som, to understand that Pillar 4 starts from a tough reality. A governance failure in Bangalore can become a board level liability in London or New York within hours. So that's the kind of sensitivity that we are dealing with right now. And you have laid down a 10-item go, no-go checklist for high-stake agents. So when is it okay to move fast with minimal guardrails, and when should a GCC clearly say no, even if it delays a big win? So what's your thought on that?
Yep. Hi, Rajan. Hi, everyone. Great to be in Spectra. That's actually a very important tension point in governance, right, Rajan? And I want to be really direct about it, because most governance frameworks that we have seen kind of avoid or dodge it, because it's a very touchy question, right? The honest answer is, even though generally we perceive speed and guardrails to be the opposite side of a fulcrum, they are actually not opposites. They go hand in hand. And I'll define how they go hand in hand. We should think about Pillar 4 through the definition of the 5 autonomic tiers that we have defined in the playbook. It starts from tier 0, where the agent just surfaces the insights and the human does everything else, right? All the way up till tier 4, which is fully autonomous. And the rule is simple: the higher the tier, the higher the bar, right? So at tier 0 and tier 1, the agent recommends, human approves. You can move fast, right? Minimal guardrails, deploy it, learn from it, like how Shabareesh and Urvinder were talking about. This is where GCC should be experimenting aggressively. And an agent that summarizes, let's say, documents or route tickets or drafts a fast pass email, we can move fast in those, because the cost of being wrong is relatively low and it can be recoverable, right? But the moment an agent touches money, it touches safety, or let's say someone's livelihood, for example, a loan decision, a clinical recommendation, an employment outcome, that's when the answer changes completely. And the reason is not bureaucracy, it is accountability. You mentioned very, very nicely that a governance failure in Bangalore can become a board level liability in London, New York, Melbourne within hours. And we have seen this play out. Like the DPDP, which is the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, the RBI Act, the EU AI Act. These are not theoretical. For Indian GCCs serving global parents, regulatory shortcuts do not just delay a win, they become a tax exposure, an audit finding reports, and more importantly, a reputational damage, like a permanent damage that says the entire program back by years. And this is where I say that if you skip the guardrails, you are not increasing your speed, because it can actually get you delayed for years, if not more. So in Pillar 4, we have 3 non-negotiables. First, a tested human override mechanism, not on paper, actually tested. Second, a named ethics owner with real sign of authority, like not a committee, one person who can say no and who has the guts to say no. Right. And third, what we call the human dignity floor. There are certain interactions, like let's say a bereavement claim, a loan rejection, an employment termination, where a human must be in the loop, right? Even though you can automate it, we should not. So to summarize, if the use case is tier 0 or tier 1, move fast and learn. If it is tier 2 and above, touching real decisions about real people, slow down, clear the gates, and do it right. Yeah.
I think technical capability without pillar 4 becomes a liability in that case. So, control really sits today inside the life cycle and not as a checkbox at the end. That's what we can all summarize with this. Fair. Now, suppose we have done everything. Now we have the mandate, we have the readiness, we have the right architectures and the tool sets, we have the governance. Still, the board is asking, what did we get? And that's pillar number 5. So I'm coming to you, Biswa, to help us understand that your chapter pushes for outcome dashboards instead of activity metrics. So in case you were explaining this to a GCC CFO, what are the 3-4 numbers should they see each quarter to stay convinced that this agentic AI program deserves more capital?
Yeah, Rajan, I think it's a great question. And firstly, thank you, everyone. And really looking forward to this SPECTRA as a event. It's a great event. Coming back to your question, Rajan, if I have to present or get an opportunity to present this to a GCC CFO, firstly, I will not present the operational KPIs. I will pick up few 3 to 4 board level pointers, which will essentially establish the fact that so far what we have done in this agentic AI space, and that will also justify the financial investment what has happened and open up the door for the future financial implications or investment as well. Now, obviously, we have to go through with a certain way or certain method. For me, it will be a sort of a dashboard which I'm going to present every quarterly basis to a CFO. Now, the dashboard will sort of answer 4 questions. Number 1 is, are we creating measurable enterprise value? Number 2 is, are we getting faster at converting AI investment into outcomes? Number 3 is, are we building reusable enterprise capability or isolated pilots? And number 4 is the operating model becoming structurally more efficient? So if my dashboard is able to answer these first 4 questions to the CFO, I think I'll do a good job. Now, to drill down a bit, right? Now, in order to answer these 4 questions, we need to have 4 sections in the dashboard. Number 1 is, it's a verified business impact. And I want to emphasize this word on verified. Now, most of us have spent a good amount of time in the AI industry, and what we know is most of the AI impact, what we talk about are estimated value impact. Now, when we are taking it to a CFO, estimated value impact will not work, right? It needs to be backed by a senior business stakeholders. Otherwise, CFO will not take those numbers. So that's why the verified word is very critical here. Now, what we need to showcase to CFO in this section, there are 4 items. Number 1 is, what kind of cost reduction happened due to the agentic AI? Second aspect is about, we all know that agentic AI impacts the productivity, but we need to convert the productivity into financial numbers as well. The third is about that, what, if possible, can we actually tie back to the top line, right? Because so far what we are talking about are more bottom line. And the fourth is a balance between the risk and the cost. So if we can essentially establish a fact like, say, a finance due to agentic AI deployment, financial operation has been, the cost of the financial operation has reduced by 58%, and say it has saved 1,800 hours annually for the analyst, I think we will do a good job. The second section is all about time to value. Now, the time to value has 2 components, right? One is, how much time it takes from a pilot to production, and how much time it takes from a production to value realization. Now, if we can show that earlier, say typically it takes 9 months from moving from a pilot stage to production stage, and now because of agentic AI, we are actually reducing it to 4 months. What essentially it will help us, it will demonstrate that organizational learning and an execution maturity, and it will go pretty well with the CFOs. The third aspect is about reusability. Now, this is where a GCC can prove that how they are actually viewing an agentic AI, right? Are they thinking about it as an isolated pilots, or they are really thinking about as a reusable enterprise capability, right? Now, in this particular section, what CFO wants to see is what kind of percentage reusable components we are developing that we can use it across. The second pointer being that how many departments or functions are using the platform that is being developed in GCC, right? And the third aspect is because of these reusable elements, what kind of a savings or cost savings we are leading to when we are deploying some of these AI solutions. Now we'll come to the fourth point. Now, fourth point is about autonomy adjusted productivity gain. Now, what does it mean? It means that how much meaningful work is now being executed autonomously at an acceptable risk level, right? So what CFO wants to see here, that what are the percentage workflows handled at a tier 1, tier 2 level which are autonomous, right? What are the percentage human effort which have been displaced or redeployed? And the third one is about, okay, what is a deviation in terms of the risk or error when human used to do versus when agents are doing right now, right? Is it in the permissible limit? I think these four more or less are being captured in detail in our playbook or in our chapter 5. But if we can showcase these four components well in our dashboard, what I mentioned, I think we'll be able to sell our stuff to the CFO.
That's very comprehensive, Biswa. And I think if the board pack leads with licenses and headcounts only, I mean, we are underselling India. It's need to, time to value that you're focused on, and the 4 dimensions that you talked about are fantastic and would give a lot of leaders, the path, the tool, the segue to look into things. Fair. So thank you very much for covering all the areas. And I'll just quickly go around the room once again, because we also have to talk about one non-obvious decision each one of you want GCC heads to make in the next 7 days. So let's keep it one-liner responses. So I'll come to you, Shabareesh. What's your one non-obvious decision on readiness next week to the GCC leaders?
So my one non-obvious decision would be deliberately say no to one flashy Gen AI or Agentic AI use cases this quarter. Because most GCC think progress means launching many number of pilots, but I think maturity comes, having discipline to block the wrong ones early.
Okay, that's a cool advice. Urvinder, what's your decision on technical implementation?
From the technical implementation, I would rather say a non-technical word, that is fund observation. And we know what has happened recently with Uber. So we should know that how we are utilizing the right fund in the right frame and in the right context. So this is something that I want to do, because we end up doing a lot of experimentation without knowing the end result. So how we are making sure to use the fund adequately.
Okay. So for you, what's the advice on governance and ethics?
Name one person as an ethics owner and give them real power, not a committee like a working group which meets alternate Tuesdays. And that person whom you deploy as the ethics owner should have a spine who can logically explain the decision and say no if you need to be.
Right. That's fine. Biswa, for you, what's the one non-obvious decision on value and scaling?
Yes, so I think what I've observed is after one successful pilot, most of the GCCs try to expand the use case rapidly. Now, what it essentially leads to is a lot of technical debt and obviously operational chaos. So I think the smartest GCCs are those who will be able to scale the shared capabilities first, like say platform, governance, evaluation layer, observability data, and then go for the scaling of the use cases.
Perfect. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I think Agentic AI is collapsing the historical cost advantages, and we have to choose our archetypes accordingly. That's what I would also suggest from Pillar 1's point of view, that we have to customize ourselves from the orientation that we have. Are we delivery engines, capability hubs, or transformation nodes? And hence we have to define our work processes and strategies accordingly. And we also have to look at the maturity card. So we have gone from why this playbook, why now, to readiness, architecture, agent ops, governance guardrails, and value dashboards. I think for GCC leaders, I would suggest that treat this playbook as a board instrument, especially the archetype table, the IP models, and the maturity scorecard, not just a one-time PDF. And probably that can really help you to fasten up your Agentic AI adoption journey. So thank you, Biswa, Urvinder, Shabareesh, Som, and thank you all for joining. The playbook link, QR code is on your screen now. Use it to script your next 18 to 36 months, not just your next pilot. And we hope that this will be helpful for your journey. Thank you very much for joining, and see you next time.
Thank you.